I want to introduce next Sharif Zakout, who was born and raised in San Francisco, which isn't too many people lately. He's a lead organizer of the Arab Resource Organizing Center, and we're proud to have him speak today with us.
What's good, everybody? I want to start off with this piece. My father was from the Gaza Strip in Palestine, and living and born here in San Francisco, I see a lot of similarities, so I want to start off with that. 1948, didn't hesitate to shoot, displaced most our population, time and time from their roots. Then they tried to hide the proof. Looks like 1492, different time, different place, the same white supremacist rule. Now I'm living in a land where the land sees me as an enemy, no liberty. If you want to be, then I guarantee that the FBI got an eye on the people who they set to spy. House arrest, stop and frisk, fund occupation through the colleges. BDS, yes, BDS. Then they hit you with the claim you a terrorist. On the terror list, on the precipice. Drone take out another nemesis. Weapons tested in the Gaza Strip. Sold to our pigs and they copy it. What the fuck, seen every day. Views on the news getting us played. We gotta mobilize, we gotta organize. And if one dies, then another 10 will rise. We about return and liberation. Turtle Island to Palestine with self-determination. We'll replant every tree, rebuild every home. And until we see that day, our resistance lives on. So I want to read this statement that we recently put out after the Muslim ban was partially reinstated by the Supreme Court. And so we assert, one, the freedom to stay. We uphold migrants' rights. We recognize that while Arabs and Muslims are the majority of those targeted by the recent ban, as well as the intended scapegoats for it, there are other communities, including ethnic, racial, and religious groups originating from the targeted countries that will be impacted. When we demand that Arabs and Muslims have the freedom to stay, that is also an assertion of solidarity with all immigrants, regardless of documentation or place of origin. We support the indigenous struggle. The Trump administration has doubled down on the U.S.'s program of exploiting indigenous lands and repressing indigenous movements, extending the settler colonialism in which this country was founded. We stand with indigenous communities everywhere, struggling for their freedom to stay on their land. We oppose gentrification. Folks, I was born here. What does sanctuary mean if I can't even afford to live here? Here in San Francisco Bay Area, the ravages of displacement caused by gentrification are sharply felt. We fight for our freedom to stay in our homes, our communities, and against displacement of oppressed people everywhere. Two, we assert the freedom to move. No ban, no wall. Say it with me, y'all. No ban, no wall. We join in millions of people who are demanding no ban, no wall. We believe that everyone should have the freedom to move without the threat of violence generated by borders and racist, xenophobic immigration policies. We support comprehensive sanctuary. People are fleeing wars from our countries in the Arab world and seeking to escape from US-backed political, military, and economic policies that have devastated Latin America and the Caribbean, Asia, and Africa, and we should provide them with refuge. Within the US, we support the freedom to move for all communities targeted by repression by all levels of law enforcement, including Border Patrol. We oppose xenophobia in all its forms. Trump's executive orders exist within a heightened context of Islamophobia, white supremacy, Zionism, and fascism that restricts Arabs, Muslims, and other ethnic and religious groups' movement for security reasons. We fight for the freedom to move within the US, those facing occupation, apartheid, and settler colonialism everywhere. Third, we assert the freedom to return. We move to end imperialism. Similarly, the imperialist adventures the US has taken up across Asia, Latin America, and the Caribbean and Africa, the 6 Muslim majority countries listed in the ban, have all been targeted by the US through bombing, military intervention, sanctions, resulting in forced migration and people becoming refugees. We stand against imperialism and people's freedom to return to their lives and homes with dignity. We stand against state repression. Our struggle against the bans and immigrant detention is embedded within the struggle against repressive systems and surveillance, policing, sentencing, and imprisonment that target working class and communities of color. We fight for imprisoned and detained people to have the freedom to return to their families and their communities. And we support the refugees' right of return. As third world peoples from the Americas, Asia, and Africa, we fight for oppressed people everywhere to be able to travel, visit, and return to their homelands, and we fight for that freedom to return. And lastly, we assert the freedom to resist. We stand in solidarity with all those impacted by imperialism, state violence, displacement, and racial profiling. We recognize that not a single judge dissented from the unsigned Supreme Court ruling, and with some willing to go even further in implementing the ban in full. The stakes are high for our communities. We commit to resist abusive and racist laws at every level. And as it was mentioned before, the Trump administration is only the embodiment, is the face of the racism that we've been facing since the country was started, since the beginning of this country. So thank you very much. Long live international solidarity.